The benefits of induction. Unless you're having a major complication, like you're in danger of preeclampsia right now, or HELLP syndrome, or cholestasis, or something else that's basically keeping baby in is more dangerous than getting baby out, there are no benefits to induction, because induction hijacks that entire physiological process. There is no biofeedback from your baby to your uterus to your brain saying, hey, this contraction needs to be a lot easier to help me to turn, to navigate the pelvis. There is no biofeedback saying, hey, this is too strong. Mom's not able to cope. She's not able to rest. She needs to be able to rest in order to keep going for how long we need to keep going. There's none of that. There is no biofeedback saying, hey, let's flood the system with more endorphins so that mom gets into her labor trance and is able to tolerate this because she won't feel any pain. There is none of that. This is why when you introduce Pitocin, you break the waters, you do a membrane sweep, you do multiple cervical checks, you continue to interrupt the laboring mother, like you continue to get interrupted by your birth team, and they keep trying to do things to you. When you keep doing that and you keep getting interrupted, that's when birth hurts, because you can't get into your labor state. That is why I ended up having to ask for the gas and air so I could escape. That was it. It was the only reason I did it. When I had a home birth, I sent everybody away and I was laboring on my own, and there was no pain. I was able to open up my mouth wide. I was able to do deep vocalization as my body was telling me to do. I was following my instincts and how I moved. I was following my instincts on when to bear down and when to pull back. And birth was really easy for me. Whereas beforehand, there was a lot of fear. When you have fear in your birth, this is when it's flooding to your system and saying, hey, there's a tiger in the area. And Pitocin hijacks that whole thing. Breaking your waters makes it so that your baby is now coming before they're ready. They're not in a good position. Oftentimes, if your baby wasn't ready and it doesn't signal contractions, the next step is that they give Pitocin. Pitocin, as I said, hijacks the system. The other thing that hijacks the system is the epidural. The epidural now is taking away your ability to have those endorphins. So if the epidural wears off, guess what? You have no endorphins at all. The epidural has worn off and now birth is super painful because you haven't had that buildup like you needed with all of those endorphins. They were blocked off. Not only that, the epidural is not a cure-all. It comes with complications. It can slow your labor, which then leads to Pitocin, which then leads to more problems. And then your baby is in distress and you get a C-section. Or they cut an episiotomy to get that baby out faster. Or they pull that baby out with forceps and vacuum. This is a problem when you introduce any intervention into a physiological birth. You are no longer having a physiological birth. Your baby may not be able to do those reflexes, especially if they've been induced and they weren't ready to be able to massage your uterus, which means that you have more complications of possibility of bleeding more. More hemorrhaging can happen when you introduce Pitocin, because again, that's not your body's hormones. It does not cross the blood-brain barrier. So when you introduce Pitocin, there is more chance of hemorrhaging. The other thing, of course, is that if you pull on the cord and clamp that cord before the whole blood volume has happened, baby is not getting enough blood volume, they can have problems later on leading to jaundice, or they have the brain bleeds because they've had a traumatic birth going through the birth canal, and they weren't able to have that natural ability to heal because you messed with it. When you mess with birth, you mess with an entire ecosystem for birth. It's like if you go out and you kill some bug that you thought was just an annoyance, and you take this poison and you spray it all over the lawn. Well, guess what? This is now why we have a problem with our bees. And because if you keep doing this, if you keep messing with the system, that's when nature's like, what are you doing? Now we have another complication. Now you screwed this whole thing up. And I know that's not what you want. I know that you want a natural birth as natural as possible. And I know that you're getting a whole bunch of information from people that are saying that you should just give in and get the epidural, or that you need to induce because it's scary and birth doesn't work if you don't induce, and that you're going to have complications if you don't induce. Like, there's a lot of fear in the medical system. And it comes from the fact that at one point, some man, some doctor, thought birth could be very profitable. And then they started inventing drugs or discovering drugs that would make it more efficient and more profitable. And then all of that knowledge was lost or pushed underground, because you have to remember another thing. We were literal property. We didn't have rights. As women, us speaking out about, hey, you're messing with a physiological process, all they had to do was say one word, witch, and then you're in trouble. So they had all of this problem with treating women like defective machines that needed to become more efficient, pushing the midwives out, calling us witches, making it so that we're afraid to speak up, all that wisdom lost, and then pushing birth into the hospital where it's even more controlled, and then doing things to you that continue to lead down the cascade of interventions. And it's even just the smallest thing of leaving your home that can do it, which is again why you need the 5 pillars of empowerment, which are the right mindset, the right education, the right environment, the right facilitators, and the right support. And you need all 5 of these optimized in order to get your true natural birth. So again, if you want to know more about how to get a true natural birth and these 5 pillars that I keep talking about, and you want to be able to avoid getting into one of those natural birth traps that I also mentioned, then I'm just going to invite you to sign up for my newsletter on my website. Go to empoweringmomsbirth.com. You'll get a free gift from me. This will help you to avoid those natural birth traps. You'll understand more about physiological birth. You'll get those 5 pillars. You'll learn how to work with them and to optimize them, so that you don't get tricked by the system. You don't have to fight. You don't have to beg. You don't have to compromise. You don't have to give up. You don't have to give in. You're not going to crumble under the pressure. No leaving your dignity at the door. And ultimately, here's the best part. You won't be robbed of the true natural birth experience that you deserve to have, the one that nature intended you to have. Because the secret about physiological birth that most people don't know about until they experience it themselves is that when you go through it and you truly experience the power in your own body, this is when you transform into a higher version of yourself. You transform your motherhood. You become the expert in your child. You become so connected to your baby, to your family, to what you need to do in life, your purpose, your true reason for being here. You start to see it. You recognize that you can have more. You can have more for yourself and for your children. And this also allows you to evolve to the next level. Because when you notice about nature is that we're always optimizing for the highest level of evolution, correct? So you want your children to be able to grow up and thrive and to be able to pass on their genetic material to continue that line. And in order to do that, you cannot be traumatized by your birth, because when we're traumatized by our birth, when we are lowering our expectations, when we don't get that cascade of hormones, that's when we start to think that we're failing. That's when we start to defer to other people and let them tell us that we're doing it wrong, and that we feel like we're a bad mother, and we feel like our bodies have failed us and that our bodies are broken and defective. And it lowers our self-esteem. It affects our marriages. You don't want to have sex if you don't feel like your body is working. You don't want to have that conversation with your partner if you feel like you can't speak up. You don't want to even go to the doctor for your kids because you know that they're just going to keep telling you that you're not doing it right and that you need to put that baby on formula, when really what you need is true support for breastfeeding, and you're not getting it. Same thing for sleep. There's so many parenting experts out there telling you that you're wrong, when your instincts are telling you something else. And you're like, there's something else going on. Like, no. I've had 10 years of experience, 20 years of experience. I'm telling you that it's this. And the fact is that when you go through a true physiological birth, which is also what I call the empowered birth, but it doesn't even have to be physiological, because the true empowered birth is taking control of your birth experience and having the choice, not having the choice made for you. So if you feel that there's something wrong, absolutely, you call in the medical assistance. But you don't need to be treated like you're a disaster waiting to happen. That's the true empowerment. Once you have that, once you have the 5 pillars, once you know how they all work, then that is when birth works. That's when your life works. That's when your family works. That's when you know when to call in experts and when to just let their advice slide, because it's not what's working for you. And nobody can ever take your power away from you again. So again, all you have to do to learn more about these 5 pillars is go to my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com, put your name and email in, sign up for the weekly newsletter. You're going to get a free gift from me. It varies from time to time, but typically all of these are designed to help you to have a true natural birth, to recognize your own power in your body, to also be able to spot any traps in the medical system. I don't send anything that's not going to be of complete value to you. I always send a weekly newsletter that will make sure that you can actually get the information that was not being taught when I was going through my pregnancies, that I had to find, that I had to dig, I had to really pull back the layers. And it's taken me years to get it all and then to test out my theories. And as I said, you can get the birth you want without having to fight, beg, or compromise. You can be like Jenny, who was 41, gestational diabetes, Group B strep positive, told that she was too high risk to have a VBAC, and she ended up having an unassisted hospital birth after cesarean. And like she just did it. She just proved the system wrong. When they said that she was too high risk and wouldn't be able to do it, she proved them wrong using this model. And I've proved the system wrong with my own births as well by using this model. And this model is so powerful. So I really, really love to serve you more. And if you loved this video on physiological birth, I invite you to share it everywhere, because this is the true model of physiological birth. It's based off of what I read inside Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage and what I've learned and discovered in the 10 years that I've been in the birth community as a doula, childbirth educator, advocate, and as a mom who experienced 2 physiological births, one at home, one in the hospital, and helped mothers do the same, including mothers who've had previous C-sections and were told that their bodies were broken and defective and would never go into labor on their own, and that they would never be able to have a physiological birth, that it would have to be a highly controlled medicalized one to be able to do this. All right. So again, empoweringmomsbirth.com, and I will see you next week. Bye.